Do you ever wonder if you're spending your life on the right things? And do you think about the person you've become? And do you dream about a life that's more fulfilling and joyful? If so, this talk is for you. The story starts almost exactly 1 year ago today, October 10th, 2014. I was launching the biggest project of my life, the Do+Make Business District, an online community and school for new business owners. Now, in order for this part of the story to make sense, we need to go back even further in time to another big day, March 30th, 2009. And I promise I don't take pictures like this every day. These are the two I have that are really big, so I had to document it. March 30th, 2009 is the day I quit my job as an executive recruiter and I launched my new business as a career consultant. And this day was huge for me because it was the day I finally got to prove myself. I always thought, I'm really creative and I have a lot of ideas and I'm really ambitious, and I feel like every job I have, I don't get to really show that, and I'm kind of held back, and I have ideas and my boss says, well, hold off on that. And so this was going to be my chance to finally prove myself and become somebody. And for that first year in business, I worked day in and day out. I mean, I went to every networking event. I went to give free speeches. I met with as many clients as I could. I was having business lunches. I was volunteering. I was joining boards. I was doing everything I could to build credibility and get my business off the ground. And in that first year, I published my first book, The Anti-Resume Revolution. I spoke at TEDx in Washington, D.C. about reinventing work. And I was featured in major media outlets. And on the outside, my business was a huge success. People always came up to me and said, I'm so inspired by you. This is so incredible. And I was always so thankful for that. But on the inside, I felt like I was drowning every single day. I felt like I could never keep up with my own ambition. I was in this constant go, 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 do mindset. Like my to-do list never ended because when I crossed one thing off, I added 10 more things. I could never say no. If someone called and said, can you join this committee? Sure. Will you come to our fundraising event? Of course. Will you come to our dinner? I'll be there. I just said yes to everything because I saw every single opportunity as a way to become known. And I really wanted to make this thing work because I wanted to prove to myself that all these things I thought about myself were true. And after 18 months of this, I was burnt out. And I wasn't even 30 years old yet. And I said, do people retire at 30? Like, can I do this? Because I don't think I can work anymore. I was so tired. And then life threw me a raft. I got a phone call from UMass Amherst. It was the Alumni Association, my alma mater. And they called and said, we're having some staffing changes and we need some help just in the interim, just short term, like a part-time thing. Do you want to help us? And I was like, yes, right now. I will be there this afternoon. I needed a way out of all of these things I was stuck in because my business was going in 50 different directions. And I realized my ambition far outweighed my vision for where this business was going to go. And I saw this as an opportunity to take a breather. So I put my business on pause. And I said, I'm going to take this time while I'm at UMass to just think about what I want to build next. And that short-term job turned into a full-time job, and I stayed there for 2.5 years. And at the end of the 2.5 years, I still hadn't figured out what I wanted to do with my business. I was so frustrated, but then the phone rang again, and it was a friend of mine who owns a small business, and he said, can you come help us do sales and marketing? And I was kind of getting that itch, like I wanted to get back into the business world, so I left the university, and I helped him with his business. And about 6 months into that, I got another phone call from a friend who was starting a consulting firm, and he asked if I wanted to join. And this is the part of the talk that I would equate to that part in the horror movie, any horror movie, when the girl goes back into the closet where the murderer is, and everyone in the audience is like, don't do it. And I was like, yeah, I'll join your consulting firm. Realizing I hadn't learned anything over the whole span of my time at UMass of thinking about what I wanted to do next. And after 4 or 5 months of getting back into that hustle and grind of the consulting lifestyle and seeking out clients and building credibility, it occurred to me that I might be crazy. Like, how did I get myself back into this? And I said, I have to leave. I need to quit this consulting firm. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I just knew I couldn't do that anymore. And after my final meeting with my last client, I got in my car expecting to feel relieved, like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. But instead, I had a splitting headache. And I don't really get headaches, so I went home, I laid down to take a nap, and I stayed there for a month. And for someone like me who's always working, going to school, volunteering, I don't really stay in bed for a month. So this was a big deal. I was weak, I was tired, I felt really sad and depressed, I felt really confused and frustrated, and I wondered, how is it that I'm able to help thousands of other people over the last 5 years to figure out what they want to do with their career transition and build their business, but I'm sitting here in bed in a dark room feeling totally lost. It was such a conundrum. It felt so, like, just totally confusing. And so at that time, I realized I was going to take the next 2 months off to continue thinking about it. And I just had time to, like, hang out. I just decided I was going to live off credit cards and figure it out. So for the first time ever, I was doing things like taking selfies of myself on the couch with my cat. I was like, I have time for this. I was going for bike rides again. I was just like sitting in the woods and thinking about life. I actually got to use my hammock. It was an amazing time, and I started to notice my thoughts were changing. I was no longer focused on a to-do list. Now I was thinking about life. I was thinking about big questions. And I noticed that my observations of life were changing too. And one day I was sitting in my home office, and I looked up at the window, and I noticed I had moved in a year earlier, and I never put curtains up. And in realizing this, I immediately had a memory of when I was a child, I used to make clothes all the time. And it made me think, I wonder if I could make my own curtains. So I went to a thrift store, I bought a bunch of material, I came home, and I made curtains. And while I was making those curtains, it occurred to me that there was something else I had forgotten about myself. I love arts and crafts. So then I did an arts and crafts project. And while I was working on that arts and crafts project, I had another memory. When I was a kid, I used to love making greeting cards for my friends, for holidays and birthdays. And while I was working on these greeting cards, you guys, I had a major revelation. I'm an artist. I was like, what happened to me? And I remembered what happened to me. When I graduated from college, I thought I had to abandon that part of myself to become a business person. I have to dress a certain way. I have to talk a certain way. I have to look a certain way. I can't be an artist and a business person. But what I realized in this moment was I can be a business person and an artist. And what happened after that was everything I started to touch became an art project. Even stuffed celery. I was like, this is an art project. Just simple things. And this is what helped me to think about my next business move. I realized in that moment that whatever I did next had to allow me to make things, because that's when I'm happiest. And so I thought back to all the clients I had met with over the years and some of the major problems they had presented to me that I wasn't able to fix at the time. Things like business owners saying, it's really hard to do this by myself. I feel so isolated. I don't have a community. And other business owners saying things like, I'd love to keep growing and learning, but I don't have a lot of time to seek out workshops and buy 1,000 books. If there was a place I could just get that information when I need it, that would really help me. And that brings us back to October 10th of 2014, almost 1 year ago today, when I launched the Do+Make Business District, the online community and school for new business owners. And I launched this property just kind of privately to my newsletter list. I didn't do a big, giant launch. I just said to the people who had subscribed to that list, I'm doing this experiment. It's a project. I want to see how it goes. If any of you are interested in joining me, I'm going to be teaching classes online every month through videos. I'm going to give you an accountability buddy to help you grow. And I hope that you can learn some new skills to build your business. I said it'd be $25 a month, and 25 people signed up. So I said, let's start doing this. And after the second month, I decided I'm going to get creative with this, and I'm really going to make this an art project. So I shot one of my classes at a playground by my house. And it was a class in lifestyle design. And as I'm talking to my members about personal values and their definition of success, I was sliding down slides and like swinging on the swings. And right before I published that video and sent them the email to watch it, I started to get really nervous. Like, is this something business coaches do? And is this professional? And are they going to think this is weird? But I thought, this is an experiment. I'm just going to try it out. So I sent it to them, and I asked them what they thought. And the feedback was surprising. They said, it was so fun to watch you have fun. And it was really exciting to learn about business in a way that didn't feel like we were learning about business. You weren't just standing in front of a green screen with a chart. You were talking about really important things that help us grow, but you did it in a really artistic way, and we appreciate that. So then I started to get even more confident in my creative side. I started teaching classes in costumes. One class I did as a wizard. I did another class as an eccentric pet shop owner who was talking about the importance of working with other small businesses. I did one video as a wise old grandmother who wanted to share her experiences in business. And after all of these videos and all of these experiments, I've learned that the difference today versus who I was when I started my business in 2009 is my mindset. When I first started out, I was really outcome focused. I was really focused on the end, the finish line, like who I could become and my accomplishments and the results. And I realized today I have a creator's mindset. I'm more focused on learning and growing and the journey and being focused in the moment and what I can learn from everything I'm doing. And so what I want to show you guys today is how I did this so that you can do the same thing. Because if you're still asking yourself these questions I posed in the beginning about what you're spending your time on and who you want to become, and is your life joyful and fulfilling, I think this process can help you a lot. The process is called the creator cycle. And it's very simple, so I'm going to walk you through it, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how it works. It starts with being. Just like I told you, sitting on my couch taking selfies with my cat. That's being. And then you move into the dreaming stage. That's when something happens that makes you start thinking about ideas, like looking at your window and noticing you don't have curtains. Oh, what can I do about that? And then you move into the doing stage, and that's when you determine what you want to do next. So when I decided, maybe I'll make curtains, that's when I moved into the doing stage. And the doing stage is when you go out and get the materials, and you create your outline and your timeline, and you figure out what it's going to look like. And then you move into the making stage, which is the actual making of the curtains. And what happens at the very end is the part where all of the information comes from. The end is where you reflect on what happened during that project. So when I thought back while I was making those curtains, I said, what did I love about this? And what did I not really like that much? And when did I want to quit? And what was I scared of? And because what happens during the creator cycle is there's a moment that comes when you want to quit. Maybe you can guess when it is. It comes right before the doing stage. That's when a lot of people go, maybe I'm not going to do this. And that's where all the information lies, is when you make it over that bridge from, I'm probably not going to do this, to, let me just try this. And then you start to learn a lot about yourself. Because you listen to the thoughts you have about who you should be and who you want to be and who you're not. And am I doing this right? Is this perfect? Is this going to be the best? You start to see these things about yourself that unless you put yourself in that situation to learn, that stuff doesn't really come up. And so I started to listen to that voice as I was going through this process each time and helping me to see that, yeah, underneath all of these shoulds of who I should be, like be an author, I have to be a certain person, was just this like really weird person who just really wanted to come out. And what I learned about, when I figured out that I'm a weird person, I learned that everybody else is really weird too. We're all just like pretending to be normal. So the cat's out of the bag. You guys can stop pretending. It's totally fine. Just let your weird person show, and it's cool. So what I noticed about the creator cycle, once I had broken this all down, was that when I ran my business in 2009, I was stuck in the doing stage. So I had this like little broken rudder. Like I was never moving through the whole cycle. I was just down there all the time. So I was never learning because I never made it back into the reflection stage. And when I was working at UMass and I said, I'm just going to think about what I want to do next with my business, I was stuck up in the being stage. So I was never moving through the whole stage. And if you take the circle and you put it flat, Once you complete the whole creator cycle, now you have a whole foundation of information. And you can look at it and go, okay, what do I want to do with that? And then you can go back through it again once you've done another project, like greeting cards and arts and crafts projects, and you'll start to see, wow, I'm getting a lot of information about myself. But you have to challenge yourself to move through the whole thing in order to get that. And that's the tricky part. That's where a lot of people want to quit, because it's kind of difficult. But I've learned that by doing it, you get the information to those questions about who you've become and who you want to be. So my challenge to all of you is to think about one thing you've always wanted to try, but that you've stopped yourself from doing. And I don't mean you have to start with something gigantic. Do something small, pick something small, and go through the creator cycle with it. And then see how you react. When did you want to quit? What was scary? What was fun? What would you want to do again? And maybe arts and crafts isn't your thing. Maybe you like gardening or cooking or woodworking. Pick whatever you're interested in and just start observing yourself in the process. And so much information comes from it. So if you can create moments to learn about yourself, you'll truly see who you are. And this is when you become who you are. Thank you.